Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast on this 16th of January 2017. Excuse me, that's I must be trying to get back to my 30s. 2019. I'm your host, Real Gerald Quinn, discussing the world of sports and pop culture. As always, we are streaming live on YouTube. So catch us live here streaming on YouTube. The podcast should be up anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes after the broadcast. Of course, it will be also available via Blog Talk Radio, Anchor, iTunes.apple.com, Stitcher, a number of platforms and sources that you can catch us. That the podcast will be available via. So looking forward to. So if you don't check us out live, you can certainly check us out on demand anytime at your respective leisure. A lot to discuss here on a busy hump day Wednesday. Hope everybody out there having a great week. Just over here in the DMV, trying to get over this snow. DC, Maryland, Virginia, Northern Virginia is just the absolute one of the worst places you can be when it does snow because they just can't handle it. I mean, it becomes like the apocalypse when it snows down here, and you got other places around the country. If you're from Buffalo, or from Syracuse or Chicago, and you're laughing at us. Those folks are absolutely laughing at us in terms of how we navigate and deal with snow. So the idea that some more snow is possibly coming, will possibly be coming this weekend is a something that I'm not looking forward to be completely honest with you. But we will try to navigate our way through the winter as spring will be here before you know it. I want to begin with something that has really been bothering me for the past, I would say, week or so, maybe even longer, and that is the situation of the state, I should say, of NFL coaching in 2019 in regards to minorities being fired and not hired. Now, there was a time when I was growing up watching the NFL to where black coaches just wouldn't get hired. I remember when Art Shell got hired, it was like it was a big deal. I mean, it was just something. It was like a man walking on the moon as far as I'm concerned, and like somebody, Jackie Robinson breaking the color line in terms of my generation. It was a big. I shouldn't take it that far, but it was something that like, whoa, it's a black coach. I mean, African Americans are allowed to coach football. That's how. And so racism in the NFL or racist practices in the NFL are nothing new. Okay, it's been going on for years upon decades upon decades. But it got to a point to where you start seeing the likes of Tony Dungy's of the world, Art Shell, of course, Dennis Greens, and Lovie Smith, and it got to a point to where we even saw Super Bowl coach we saw Super Bowl back in the 2006 season where it was an all black Super Bowl in terms of coaches. Lovie Smith, who coached the Bears, and Tony Dungy, who was the Super Bowl winning coach for the Indianapolis Colts, led by, of course, Peyton Manning. So when that happened, all was right in the world in terms in the NFL's eyes. It's like here we go. We got two black coaches. No more complaining. One is a Super Bowl winner. Everybody just shut up. That's it. We're hiring black coaches. It should be no one has nothing to complain about. Fast forward to 2019, 32 jobs, and when the Patriots get eliminated, which is hopefully this weekend, uh, the linebackers coach Flores will take over. Dan Flores will take over, or Brian Flores, I should say, will take over and become the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. All right, that will leave us, and I want to making sure that this guy is Brian Flores. Please let me get this guy's name right. In terms of Right, Brian Flores. I just want to make sure I got the man's name right. So that will leave us with four minority coaches in the NFL. You'll have Brian Flores of the Dolphins. You already have Mike Tomlin, Anthony Lynn, and of course Ron Bear, who coaches Carolina. So you look at that as in comparisons to 2018 when you had 8 out of 32 coaches, minority coaches in the NFL. Now, I explained this a couple weeks ago about when we were going through coaches that would be fired, that deserve to be fired, going through some of the openings that would be available. And we knew this coming. We knew this the last couple of weeks of the season. Basically, the last 3 or 4 weeks, we knew that Marvin Lewis was gone. We knew that Todd Bowles was gone. Okay, those firings would not anybody was even the least bit surprised. I would have fired them myself. Those two had to go. Vance Joseph and Steve Wilkes, that was a whole nother ordeal. So you look at those two particular situations. So Steve Wilkes gets fired after 1 year with Arizona. You replace Steve Wilkes with a guy in Cliff Kingsbury who wasn't even good enough to coach in college, who was a mediocre college coach, let alone not forget about a rotated, a rotational head coach. He was a mediocre coach in college. Then you go to the Denver situation. You have John Elway coming out today and basically saying that he had made a mistake by hiring Vance Joseph. Now, there are two different perspectives that you can view this from. One, you give John Elway the credit from the standpoint of, hey, it takes a big man to admit that he's wrong, right? Here's my perspective. To me, that is a slap in the face to Vance. We reconnect on YouTube. Vance Joseph deserves much better than that. Just fire him. Don't say anything. Don't tell me that you have to explain why why you shouldn't have hired him in the first place. It's clear that you made the mistake. You don't have to state the opposite. It's on me. I thought I knew Vance. I basically made a decision without doing my due diligence and what have you. Again, I don't give Elway any credit for making that statement because what it says to me is that you're saying that Vance Joseph should not even been considered to be a head coach in the NFL. Bad enough the man got fired. Now you gotta smear his reputation, subtly smear his reputation. And again, it used to be that black coaches just didn't get just did not outright get hired. Now it's gotten to a point to where you have assistant coaches who get fired, get a job the following year. Nathaniel Hackett, okay. You have the guy from and as I look up his name here, that just got a job. Yeah, the guy, yes, Matt LaFleur, his assistant coach, his offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, who was just fired by Jacksonville. And you know what ESPN said on the bottom line when they were promoting, not promoting, but showing you the accolades of Nathaniel Hackett, led the fifth ranked offense in 2017. Did anybody watch Jacksonville play offense this year in the 2018 season? Adam Gase, out of Miami, hired by the Jets. Okay. And this is what you'll hear in terms of a lack of minority candidates. You'll hear one of the main arguments that you will hear is that just not that the pool is not that deep. of minority. The pool is just not that big of minority candidates in general. Well, Bruce Arians just hired three minority candidates, black candidates, to be his top assistants. Okay? There's a guy who is putting his livelihood on the line to hire three guys who he feel like can do the job at a high level. Bruce Arians is not hiring these guys to fill a quota system. He's not hiring these guys because he wants to acquiesce to the Rooney Rule. He's hiring these guys because he feels like these guys are the best candidates for those particular positions. So don't tell me that they're not that the pool of quality candidates is not there, of minority candidates is not there. That just is a bunch of garbage. And again, I don't know what the exact. I can't sit up here and tell you that I'm smart enough to know what the exact solution is in terms of to be able to fix this. I feel terrible for the lifers in terms of the coaching lifers who get passed over. I feel terrible for the guys. If you're a Jim Caldwell or a Lovie Smith and you've coached your team to a Super Bowl, not to a Super Bowl win, but to a Super Bowl appearance, and you watch other guys like Adam Gase, or other guys get second and third chances, mostly second chances in terms of recycle coaches. Or even worse, you watch a guy who came and dominate or win at the college level take your job. Now, as far as the assistant coaches goes, I have no problem, regardless of color or black, white, or whoever, if a fired head coach gets a top assistant job the following year. Have no problem with that. But again, you have fired assistant coaches getting assistant coaching jobs the following year. Not even having to sit out a year to wait for another job. Of course, I'm talking about Nathaniel Hackett. You're telling me that Chris Richard, who led one of the top defenses in the league in Dallas, telling me he can't, telling me he's not as qualified, or the coach as qualified as Adam Gase is. Even Adam Gase with his couple years, with what his 3 years of experience in losing with the Miami Dolphins. Again, the Cliff Kingsbury thing is just, I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury has pictures or is blackmailing somebody. I just don't know. It just makes, I'm not hiring somebody who sucked at their last job to work for my company. It's not happening. And like I said, we got to find out if Cliff Kingsbury knows somebody in the Arizona ownership. He's a distant family member that we just thought that, third cousin or something. It makes no sense for Cliff Kingsbury to have that job. But this is where the NFL is at right now with this coaching situation. And as far as tweaking the Rooney Rule, I mean, if an owner had it, their tweak as well, owner's going to have to be required to be, at the interview. Okay. Does that mean that's going to change their mind? Most of these, I'm telling you, the majority of all these owners know who they're going to hire before that interview takes place. Period. That's why you have a lot of these minority candidates frustrated about even being interviewed, knowing that they are more than likely not going to get the job. And that's where the Rooney Rule is failing. The NFL is failing minority candidates. Again, if I'm running a team, I'm more than likely unless that coach is like a Mike McCarthy or a Bruce Arians or a Caldwell or a guy that has had sustained success in the NFL, I'm going to a fresh face. These recycled coaches, I'm sorry, I'm going to a fresh face. And if I'm going to college ranks, I'm taking the best. You have to have had dominated at the college level. Not taking a mediocre college coach. I mean, it just makes no sense. Even beyond racism, it makes no sense beyond trying to win football games. It makes zero sense to take a mediocre college coach. Like you have to be telling me you're trying to lose. You're trying to lose. Beyond beyond that, the one thing that I have found to be interesting amongst all of these hires is the a lack of a hire, and that is one Mike McCarthy, who is a Super Bowl winning coach, who is a coach that had a great one loss. I know he didn't. I know Green Bay didn't make the playoffs the last 2 years, but even with that withstanding, has a great one loss record, and who basically, I mean, I basically campaigned for the New York Jet job, and the Jets chose Adam Gase instead. Now again, Adam Gase coached Peyton Manning. I feel like I could have coached Peyton Manning when he was winning MVPs and in his prime. I mean, I don't think anybody coaches Peyton Manning. I think Peyton Manning was the type of quarterback that was a genius at what he did, and basically the quarterback and he Peyton Manning should have been getting paid for three positions. He should have been getting paid for quarterback, quarterback's coach, and offensive coordinator. That's what Peyton Manning was over the course of his career. I mean, it's no one was coaching Peyton Manning. No one, trust me. So I don't, Adam Gase, and they want to say what he did with Jay Cutler. I mean, yeah, even Jay Cutler at his best was okay. When did Jay Cutler ever had that All Pro, drop dead years or whatever? Or you like, whoa, Jay Cutler's one of the best quarterbacks in the league? We never had that conversation. Conversation never came up. So again, the same old thing with the NFL. Um, in a year that you have eight minority coaches, the following year you're down to in essence half that, and I don't see I don't see it improving anytime soon based on this system. The system is flawed. The NFL doesn't have, what I want to see is I want to see powerful minority figures in the NFL come out and speak out about this. I want Tony Dungy. I want to see, a Jim Brown. I want to see guys of that ilk come out and speak up, speak on the issues in regards to this, because it's grown beyond ridiculous, to be honest with you. It's going beyond ridiculous, and again, it will not change anytime soon. To me, in the foreseeable future. 46 minutes after the 8 o'clock hour, we're on this latest edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. A couple things going on as far as today's headlines. You have apparently Manny Machado received a offer from the Chicago White Sox for 7 years, $175 million, unofficial offer. Now, again, I hope that this is just bad information. That this is not that they actually did not make this offer, because if you're Manny Machado, I'm sure he and his agent didn't even acknowledge like what $175 million. Like really, I'm one of the best players in all of baseball. I'm in my prime, 27 years old. Like, come on. To give you a sense of how ridiculous that offer is, Felix Hernandez, the pitcher out of Seattle, signed the same deal in 2013. Manny Machado is a everyday player, and it's 2019. So we're not talking about $300 million. Then it's not even a conversation. If I'm Manny Machado, we're not talking at least 8 years, $300 million. Don't even waste my time. Also, Scottie Pippen made a comment about Zion Williamson, basically saying that he should stop playing college basketball and get ready for the pros right now. Again, I totally disagree with that. To me, you committed to Duke. for this year. You fulfill your obligation in terms of that scholarship for this year, and you try to help them win a national championship. And they are the favorites to go to the Final Four and win the national championship. Again, I could disagree. It's not a preposterous opinion, but here's the problem. It doesn't take much to start for something to get started. A few years ago, it was something we did not see top NFL prospects sitting out bowl games to get ready for the draft. That just became a thing. I would say 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. More just recently. Do not be surprised if you see now, because all it takes is one person to bring something up. All it takes is one idea and one thought. Do not be surprised, I'm telling you, to see top college basketball players in the near future sit out their senior years, especially if the team isn't any good. Duke is a championship contender, so I don't see a guy from a title contender doing that. But if it's like a situation where, you know, the team is a NI team or a average tournament team, don't be surprised if you see these guys saying, you know what, I'm good for the spring semester. I showed you what I had in November and December. I'm just gonna sit, January through March out. Just sit it out. I mean, the likelihood of Zion Williamson sustaining a career-threatening injury is basically slim and none at the college level. I mean, let's be honest. So it's not about being afraid to get hurt. I mean, you could get hurt. You can get into a car accident. You can be injured without even playing basketball. That's just life. Every time you step out your door, something could happen. So I don't see Zion Williamson, following advice is bad advice. But I understand what Scottie Pippen is saying or where he's coming from. But I mean, I disagree with it. But even more so, again, it doesn't take much to get these guys started to get all it takes all the way to do this, and then you'll have a bunch of players following suit. All it takes is that people. I'm sure there might have even been players who have been thinking about it, but who are waiting for somebody to jump out there and take all the hits. Because that first person, always the first person to start a trend, to start something that may be, looked down upon. That person's going to they're going to take the majority of the hits. But again, you will see this is going to happen in the near future. You're going to see there's top prospects sitting out a year or the majority of the year to get ready for the NBA. So we are, a couple of days away from the NFL's Final Four. A very fascinating, and I feel like it could be a league changing, generational changing Sunday in regards to the NFL. First of all, looking back at the divisional playoffs, the cream rises to the top. Those 4 teams who were the best teams in football all year long, obviously proved to be the 4 best teams. We talked about it a lot on this podcast. What how vulnerable those teams could be, possibly going to the playoffs. They proved otherwise, and it came down to good old fashioned lineup, knockback physicality. Teams outrushed their opponents by an average of 186 to 51. And you look at the scores in these games of the winning teams: 41, 31, 30, and 20. Only the Saints can crack 30 points. We said this over the course of the year. Great defense sounds nice, but you got to put points on the board. Period. Got to be able to put points on the board. And then each one of those games, the superior quarterback came out on top in each one of those games. So, again, these are two fascinating matchups. These are 2 great matchups. These games produced three of probably the four best games in the NFL this season, with Kansas City, Los Angeles, Kansas City, New England, and of course Los Angeles and New Orleans. So these are the matchups that everybody wanted to see. Um, as far as the losing teams, I just want to say something about the Eagles in regards to and the Chargers. Again, I thought now I still think that pound for pound, man for man, player for player, that the Chargers had the most complete team in all of football. But what it goes to show you is, again, how great Bill Belichick is and how poor coaching can be exposed and will be exposed in a football playoffs. You can't sit up here and tell me, if you're the Chargers, that you have not watched Tom Brady destroy zone defenses, in particular the Pittsburgh Steelers, over the course of his career. And you go out there and you play zone against a guy who has been there, done that. You basically just said, you know what, Tom, we wouldn't mind you playing in the eighth straight conference championship. Because at that point, you had no chance. And again, I'm disappointed in Los Angeles. I was on the Chargers all year long. I thought the Chargers were a complete team. Thought they, crossed that mental bridge, had an above average kicker, but they went out there and they embarrassed themselves in that game. They were outcoached and outclassed. That's all I could say. So from that standpoint, I was disappointed in the Chargers. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, as far as the losing team, you have to have nothing but respect for what the Philadelphia Eagles did over the course of the season, especially to end the season going to the playoffs. The Eagles had every excuse to mail in the year and just say, you know what, we got our Super Bowl. Our franchise quarterback is hurt. We're good. They had the Saints on the ropes. They had the Saints on the ropes. But it said the difference between having a franchise quarterback and having a overqualified backup showed in that game. See, when you win a Super Bowl, the team is not going to come back the same next year as good as they were the previous year. Guys are going to get paid. There's going to be turnover in the roster. You're going to have injuries. Things are going to happen. That franchise quarterback can make up for some of those things, for the running game not being as good, for the defense not being as dominant. That overqualified backup cannot close that gap. So again, Nick Carson Wentz is the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, which I expect that they will do, you pick up you pick up Nick Foles' option, the $20 million, and you trade him immediately. You don't even let this fester in the offseason. There are a number of teams that would love to have Nick Foles playing quarterback for them. There are a number of teams, anywhere from a half dozen teams that could use a Nick Foles. So, um, you know, football still comes. Forget about, you know, throwing the ball all over the place and being able to, and scoring a million points. And football still comes down to you. There's still a place for the running game and for physicality in the game of football, regardless of all the high scoring, all the skill positional players putting up big numbers. There's still a place for physical football. The Rams wore out the Cowboys. New England punked the Chargers. Period. And again, coming up this weekend, Sunday, you can have some league changing results. Like, we could be watching literally watching the passing of a torch from Tom Brady, or the snatching of the torch, because Tom Brady's not going to give it up easy, from Brady to Mahomes. We could literally be watching that. We could literally be watching that from a standpoint from Peyton and Breeze to Goff and McVay in terms of the dominant offensive duo in the NFC. Both of these are high level games with great all around teams as far as talent, experience, coaching. I mean, who's the worst coach in this situation? Think about the Final Four. McVay is, everybody is copying, everybody wants the next Sean McVay as far as these new coaching hires. Bill Belichick, enough said. Sean Payton has been as consistent and as steady as any coach in the NFC. Andy Reid does nothing but win. Has done everything you can do but win a Super Bowl. So definitely looking forward to these matchups. The lines are going to be tight. Over like I don't expect it to go. You're going to see it at 3.5. I don't, unless some type of practice injury occurs, I don't expect the lines to move that much. Kansas City and New Orleans should be slight favorites. They're playing at home. That without question could be the difference in the game. If you ask me to pick it right now, and again it's still early in the week, I would lean towards Kansas City, and I would lean towards, to be honest with you, the Los Angeles Rams. But that's it's still early in the week. As far as the college basketball goes, I have not started getting the college basketball a little bit. Haven't gone all in because excuse me, because NFL has been, of course, NFL has been, NFL top dog and has had top billing, a bunch of NBA stuff. We're going to get to some of the NBA stuff, but the NBA, of course, has become 365, 24/7 with the storylines and the performances that we've seen. And it's been just a crazy NBA season, to say the least. But the ACC, I mean, how good is the ACC when you have four unranked teams take out the best, minus Virginia, that the conference has to offer, and two of those victories come on the road? Like North Carolina gets, after having an impressive win over NC State on the road, they get smacked by Louisville. You see Syracuse taking out Duke at Cameron Indoor last night, or excuse me, Monday night, and you see NC State falling away for us. Pittsburgh taking out Florida State. So the ACC is loaded from top to bottom, but to me, easily the best conference without question. There could be as many as 4 to 5 teams that are Final Four caliber. I'm not feeling North Carolina right now as a Carolina. I think this team is underachieved now, despite the fact that they're 13-4 and ranked and have played a brutal schedule. I don't feel like they're fulfilling their complete potential, but that could change. We know Roy Williams is a top NCAA tournament coach and tends to get the most out of his team come tournament time. Duke, we'll see how they survive the Tyus Jones injury, though. I don't think. Listen, when you have the two top in the top 7, without question, the two top guys that are going to go number 1 and 2, Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, will be 1 and 2 in the draft this year. So I'm not feeling sorry for Duke as far as that injury goes. In regards to the NBA, again, the James Harden talk has not stopped, and will I see it stop as long as he keeps putting up these numbers. I just want to remind everyone this. Understand the era in which you are watching basketball. Understand the rules. Understand how the game is played as a comparisons to the Jordan era and also the Kobe era. James Harden is putting up ridiculous numbers. He's carrying his team. He's doing, frankly, what he should have been doing in November, or late October. But I have no problem being mentioned in the top 3 in terms of the MVP candidacy. Candidates. I would have him if I were my drug. If I were voting, I would have him behind Giannis, the Greek Freak, as well as Kawhi Leonard. But that's fine. If those want to put him second behind the Greek Freak, fine. But when you start saying he's a better offensive player than Kobe, when you start saying he's comparable offensively to Jordan, just understand that when Jordan was playing, you could basically just put both hands on the guard, and that the amount of physicality is not even comparable to where the game is at right now. You can't touch a perimeter player in 2019. You can't touch him. Like James went to the line 10 or 11 times. Cut that in half. If James Harden playing, forget about the 90s, even 2006. Okay. Like, please, like, in the 3-point shot, he's taking 12 threes a game. 12. 12. So when you start saying he's better, like, you have to consider the style of play. You have to consider what era we're playing in, and how much the game has changed in terms of the 3-point shot, in terms of physicality. Before you start throwing that, greatest offensive player. He's not even the best offensive player playing today. Like, I still think pound for pound, Kevin Durant is the best offensive player in the game. What can Kevin Durant not do? Give me something that James Harden can do that Kevin Durant can't. If the reason why James Harden scores more and can get more shots, Kevin Durant is way more efficient from the 3-point line, in terms of field goal percentage in general. So, and again, you want to compare him to Jordan and Kobe. Those guys, footwork, post game, mid range. Jordan eventually became a capable 3-point shooter. Kobe was, could get hot from 3-point range, from 3-point line. Could add that to his game midway through his career. Just don't insult the game of basketball by comparing James Harden to Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. You insult the game of basketball. You insult the intelligence of somebody 30, 35 and over. Because unfortunately, you're going to have a generation that actually believes, based on analytics, based on all these dumbass stats like PER, usage, and all this other nonsense that they've come up with in the last 10 to 15 years, that believe that James Harden is a better offensive player than Kobe or Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. And again, it is an insult to basketball, insult to anybody, again, that's over the age of 35. Golden State sending a little message last night. Denver, you're not ready. That was, just a friendly reminder to Denver and the rest of the NBA, for that matter, that listen, we're still Golden State. And I keep, here's the thing about it, and I understand it. Like, if you are doing this for a living, as far as talking sports, you can't sit up here and say Golden State is the best every single day. That narrative gets old. So you have to come up with, hey, they might be vulnerable. Draymond Green, they don't have as many. They only have 2 All-Stars when you think about it, because Draymond Green's not playing. He's playing terrible, and Klay Thompson can't make a shot. So they really only have 2 All-Stars. So when you factor that in, they're beatable. Listen, if those 4 guys are healthy, right? If they're healthy, they walk and get on the court, no one's beating Golden State. No one. Period. Golden State at this stage in their dynasty has zero interest in the regular season. They've won 3 championships in 4 years. They've been to 4 out of the last 5 NBA finals. They're not going to push hard in the regular season. They've been there, done that. They hold the single season record for wins in the regular season. And you know what that got them at the end of the day? Nothing. So if I'm going to say, I'm saying, hold on, We were 74-8 in 2015, 2016, and we didn't win a championship. So why are we trying to win every single regular season game? What's the point? What is the purpose? And there were a lot of other factors that contributed to that. We know Draymond suspension, Andrew Bogut got hurt, so there were a few things that contributed to that. But Steph Curry wasn't healthy. But but the bottom line is, and I saw this, I will see this with the Lakers in the early 2000s. They're not going all out in the regular season. The NBA, just like hockey, just like the NCAA tournament, NCAA to a lesser extent, is a postseason sport. It is a postseason sport. And if you're Golden State, you manage your minutes, you're managing your energy, you know, and you're just getting to April, trying to get to April healthy. You're not worried. You're not even stressing having home court advantage because you don't need it. You don't need home court advantage. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. As always, thanks for listening. This is the Real Deal Podcast with Cyril Gerald Quinn. I will see you next time. Take it easy.